Hey yo guys, what's good, what's happening, and what's going on? Is my microphone not turned on again? I'm getting bad at this. Anyhoozle. Guys, I want to do something. I bought these little slip floats to basically build a float rig. And I think for the float rig, I want to use my little float rod, my 6-foot ugly stick. So I'm going to configure that right now for a slip float bobber setup where I can adjust the height on the fly. So if I want to fish like 15 feet of water, I can set the stopper at 14 feet and the bobber will allow the bobber will allow the float to drop down. Son of a bitch. Anyway, the bobber will allow the float to drop. The rig will allow the float to let the line drop 14, 15, 16 feet, whatever you set it to. Right now, the thing is I'm using a clip-on bobber or whatever on that setup, and that is no bueno. Now, I was chatting with my buddy about it because I told him, the only problem I have with using a bobber setup, like a slip bobber, is don't you need to tie on some form of line? Like, don't you have to do a tie on? And my ability to tie on a leader is pretty weak. That looks like a pot plant. Check this out. See the sea of dandelions? Holy crap. I got to deal with this like yesterday. Look at this stupid plant. I have to rip that out. But look at it back here. My goodness. It's just like dandelion and orange flower heaven. The lawn's not even dense. It looks insane with all this frickin' dandelions. And the backyard, well, it's just cooked. Because of where I have to park downtown when I go to martial arts, I always make sure the back is locked. Now, the rod I want to grab, I'm going to bring it into the house with me because it's just going to make it easier to do everything in the house. The rod I want to grab is this one. So right now, I don't even have a bobber on it. I just have a hook, line. I think I took the bobber off and threw it in there. I have a hook, I'm good. Okay, and I should have fluorocarbon in the house. So I'm gonna set this one up as a float rod, a slip float rod. I'm gonna set up the Daiwa that I bought, a different method. It's going to be a swim bait rod. Now they said to you, make sure you get a rod with a big eyelet on the top so that when you do tie on your bobber stop to catch the bead, because you gotta put beads on this, protects the knots and all that. It's so that when you cast out, bobber stop doesn't catch the eyelet. Now the eyelet on the end of this is not too bad. It's not massive by any means necessary, but it's also not super tiny. So we might be okay. This is the reason why you can't use a bait caster for a slip bobber setup, because bait casters are notorious for having tighter eyes and don't allow the bobber stops to flow through properly. So that's a thing. Now, when I told my buddy I suck at tying leader line to main line, he said you don't need to with this setup. You just need these barrel swivels. He said try not to get a big one, but I'm going to use what I have here, which is an Eagle Claw brass barrel swivel. Pretty simple, just a little barrel swivel there, and it spins and it rotates and all that fun stuff. The hook I'm going to use is the same hook I have been using, just a size 4 bait keeper. It's good for catching small fish. It's good for catching big fish. Just gonna cut it off the line here. Chuck the rod off to the side, out of the way. Now, you can buy bobber stoppers off of Amazon. You can get a kit of them for like 20 bucks. You can get like 100 bobber stoppers. And they come in different styles. Some of them are rope, and some of them aren't even rope. They're actually a piece of rubber that you slide on the line and it grips the line. Now, my buddy told me, he's like, the rope ones, he goes, you're literally paying for someone to do a fisherman's knot with braid line and all you're doing is cinching it down. He's like, it's not really worth it. He's been running his slip bobber rig. Mind you, he's using a bigger pole than me. He's using an 8-footer for his slip bobber rig. I'm using a 6-footer, but he said it shouldn't matter as long as your knot, your bobber stop knot, doesn't interfere with the guides on the rod. So, and he said the first thing you want to do is get some line, and then you're going to want to get some beads. Now, all I have are these big Thinkfish beads, which hopefully should do the job. They don't have to pass through the guides. They literally just go on. Actually, this doesn't even go on yet. No, it does, because I got to put a weight. Now the weight goes on the leader. So right now what I can do is I can ignore the fishing line, and we're going to need some fluorocarbon. Now you want to use fluorocarbon for this instead of monofilament. for the key reason that fluoro is more abrasive resistant than mono and way more abrasive resistant than braid. Now I have some here. You gotta be kidding me. This stuff here it's saying this Super Tiagra, look at that. Test 28.5 kilograms. That's some thick, dense line. I really don't need that much, but it's what I have, so it's what I'm going to use. And you don't need a long piece. About that's good enough. They say about 18 inches is more than enough to get the job done. So we're going to give it 18 inches. See, this is how you know that fluoro is really abrasive resistant. I got my knife in there and I'm running it across the blade and it's not cutting. You really got to want to cut it. Fluorocarbon is one of the most, I want to say the strongest fishing line on the market, but there's some drawbacks to it. Number one, it gets memory. It's remembering how it felt on the spool. So it's kind of like monofilament in that way. Number two, it does have some stretch. So if you really don't like fishing with stretchy line, you're really going to hate fishing with fluorocarbon. It's not as bad of a stretch as monofilament, but it's still there. Now there's a third line out there that's similar to this called copolymer. I've never fished with it. I don't know much about it. I know some of my friends who have fished with it and said it's great. It's like the best of both worlds. You get the abrasion resistance of fluoro with the added benefit of invisibility of mono. Like fluorocarbon is a pretty invisible line too. Don't get me wrong on that. They say it's about 5% visible underwater, where braid, well, the fish can see the braid, which is why you'll notice on YouTube, if you watch fishing fishing YouTubers, they're always either A, tying on a fluoro leader, or B, using a fluoro loaded reel. And the reason for that is it doesn't spook the fish, and some fish are tackle shy. So all I did there was I just tied it off on the fluoro onto that swivel, because the other end is going to get my hook. But before I put the hook on, I need to throw a bead on it. I'm just going to use a small bead, a small pearl bead. I'd like to get like a bright orange bead or something like that, but I don't have any, so whatever. So we got ourselves a bead on there, a little pearl bead. Now to find that hook. There it is. Now, weather permitting, like I said, tonight after martial arts, I might head down to the lake. We're going to have to get some new bait, some new live worms, because I'm pretty sure the couple I had left are dead. They've been in the fridge now for, well, since the last time I went fishing. This has got to be like friggin' 50-pound test fluorocarbon. Really excessive stuff. And I'm just going to trim my tag end. You can use nail clippers for this too, just to trim the tag end off. And boom. So now, when your thing's in the water, the bead will sit above the hook, protecting the knot. And then you can just put a pinched weight on here, like a drop shot, and that'll go in the water. Now for the other end, the business end, the rod end. That rig's all tied up, so let's just grab some line off the reel here. First thing we need to do is install our slip bobber. Nope, we need to install a bead first. Sorry, getting ahead of myself. So I'm just going to put a little bead on here. The reason for the bead is it'll hit the bobber stop well before the bobber does, and it shouldn't get stuck on the bobber stop. If it does, chances are as you're reeling it in, it's going to hit the end eyelet and break free. Not break free of the rod, but break free of the knot. Being an old guy, this is not easy. My vision today has been extra blurry and I don't know why. I think I possibly could have used some extra sleep last night. Is this like a single holed bead? Is that why it's not going through? The hole doesn't go through? No, the hole's there. So the line goes in halfway and then gets caught on something. There we go. Bead is on. Next up, we need our float. Shit. I accidentally let go of the line, guys, and I just undid everything. The bead fell off. Everything fell off. Get me more line. The struggles. Hey Google, turn on the studio light. Maybe some additional light will make things easier. See, the reason why I love braid is because it doesn't have memory. The reason why I don't love braid is because it's literally sewing thread. Is it just this bead that's broken? Because it seems to be catching on something. Let me try a different bead. These are cheap beads from Thankfish from Amazon, but that bead went on easier because the hole was actually perforated. So there's a problem with that bead. That's why I was suffering so much. Now I'm going to suffer again as I try and get this frickin' float to feed through. All right, so that method worked. Basically, as you're feeding it through, pinch here, back up, grab some line, and then just push it through. Maybe do it in smaller increments than me. And then you should gradually get it through. I got my tag end out here. Boom. So now that will sit in the water upright and slide along the line perfectly. And then what I'm going to do is I'll put another bead at the bottom. Yeah, some of these beads, the holes drilled through them are not clean. My initial plan for getting beads was I was going to go to Dollarama or Dollar Tree and just buy some kid's craft set, because like a bead is a bead is a bead is a bead, right? And the beads are just to protect the knots so that you don't have, like, if you have a sliding weight on your hook rig, for instance, like the hook rig, you put the bead on first and then you load your weight on. And if the weight slides down or doesn't slam metal on that knot, causing a problem, it bangs out the bead. And in the end, it doesn't wreck the knot. That's the whole concept there. So now that we got everything tied on that we need, I can tie you directly to the swivel. And the only thing I'm missing is a split shot on the fluorocarbon, so that when I cast out, it launches and then sinks to the proper depth. Another thing I'm missing is my bobber stop. And that is literally either a piece of monofilament or braid line. I wouldn't recommend using fluoro. Tied to the main line using your standard fishing knot. At least that's what my buddy said. He said it's a good way to do it. He goes, because honestly, if you're buying those Thill bobber stops, you're literally buying a pack of somebody else's fishing knotted line. And there be the fishing rig, your bobber, which can float free, and then you have your line off the bottom with the invisible fluoro with about 18 inches and a hook. The bobber can only go so far, you can only reel up so much, and normally when I cast, I usually have about this much line out anyway, so it's perfect. Sail it out, set your bobber stop, and float fishing. Pick your depth, you're good to go. So, like I said, weather permitting, we might try this out tonight, but what I need to do now is do the tie off for the bobber stop. So, and then test it to make sure it actually goes through the hook eyes. Through the hook eyes, but not through the bead eyes, you know? That's what we're trying to do. So, what I'm going to use for that is more braid. I have, I believe this is 30 pound. Yes, I have some 30-pound braid right here. I'm going to take a chunk of this. Not too long, not too short. I can always trim it up. Doesn't matter. And this is just typically a fisherman's knot. So what you're going to do is you're going to take it, you're going to lay it down on the line. You're going to make a loop. Sorry guys, it's hard to show this. You're going to make a loop, and then you're just going to wrap on the inside a bunch of times. And then once that's said and done, you pass it through and you're done. Then we'll give the bobber stop a test to make sure it actually catches on the bobber and not on the eyes. So we got it tied off. I'm just going to cut the tag ends here, probably a little shorter than that. When you're cutting your tag ends, make sure you don't cut your main line, otherwise all the work you did is lost. The amount of times I've done that in the past where I'm like tying on a knot and then I get it tied up and then I grab my knife and go to cut the tag end off and I end up cutting the main line and then I got to retie because I was an idiot. It happens, guys. It happens to the best of us, happens to the worst of us. Don't beat yourself up over it. So now, here is our bobber stop right here, and theoretically, that there stops on the bead. So if I grab it and slide it down, boom, stops. But it actually just pushed the bead right over top of the bobber stop. Huh, that wasn't supposed to happen. Well, whatever. My big question is now, if I start reeling this, does it clear the eye and cause problems? No, it does not. And if I give line, it gives line. Perfect. Well, we got ourselves a float rig set up with a slip bobber. And then all you do is you just grab the bobber stop that you made. You adjust it to the height of the that you're fishing, or your depth. So if you're fishing 6 feet of water, 8 feet of water, 2 feet of water, whatever you're fishing, you adjust it just to be a little shy so that the bait's not sitting on the floor of the lake, but low enough where the bait is just dangling there. And then you cast out and you have a variable height float. So you can fish any body of water. So that's pretty sweet. I like this setup. This is going to be a great setup as long as it holds out and my knots hold out and don't let go. If they do, I lose everything. I lose my float, I lose the beads, and I lose the rig. So good times. We'll probably test this out tonight. We'll see how the weather goes because who knows how the weather goes. This morning's been pretty hectic. I got everything done though. I figured, I'll be working from home. People won't reach out to me. And sure enough, people reach out to me. I was given a job. There was like 50 computers, part of a certain group that nobody could remote into to offer support. And they were like, oh, it sounds like it's this. It sounds like it's that. And I'm like, okay, well, send me the tickets. So they sent me all 50 tickets. I contacted one person and I was like, where are my keys? I didn't say where are my keys to them. I said, do you mind if I connect? And they said, no, by all means, go ahead and try. It won't work. And sure enough, I got in right away. And then they're like, what the hell? How come you got in so easy, but nobody else can connect? I said, okay, who's trying to connect to this? And they mentioned their 3 support agents. So I'm like, all right. So I start checking to see who's available, find one available, and get on board with them. This whole issue was caused by suspended admin accounts. See, if you have admin rights, every month you have to reset your password because the password expires. It's a security policy. And they were not aware. They're pretty fresh in the support league and never had an admin username and password prior. So they were not aware of this policy, and literally 50 tickets, all because these individuals never reset their password. So luckily it was an issue, but it was quick to resolve. All right, I'm just gonna sit you over here for now. But then I resolved that, and then now I'm trying to figure out an issue with a cell phone, but the main problem I always have, it's never fixing the problems I have. It's getting my clients to be available so I can work with them to fix the problems. That's always the main issue. Like at work, when I'm in the office, I don't have to chase people down because they come to me. But usually when I'm busy, I'm freaking busy. When I'm not busy, nobody bothers me. So what do, right? Well, I know what I'm gonna do. I got some boneless, skinless chicken here, and I'm gonna eat it. So yeah, I was chatting with bloke, and he keeps sending me deals from Costco on kayaks. See, for me to bring my 13-foot kayak down there, we're gonna run into 2 problems. One, I don't know if I want to drive that far with the back of my truck wide open with a boat in it. 515 kilometers one way, 515 kilometers back. You're on the 400, you're on the 401, you're on the 407, you're on some well-known and busy highways. I don't think I want a personal watercraft dangling outside of my truck while I'm driving on those roadways. So what I mentioned was maybe I get a cheap kayak and leave it there, because he has a shed that he has his kayak in, and I can just put mine on top of his in the shed, and when I'm down and we want to go kayak fishing, we can just throw them in the truck. His kayak's a 10-footer. The bed of his truck is only 6.5 feet, I believe, but he's got that sheep pen in there, so we can just lean the kayaks up on the sheep pen and put the other end down into the box, strap them down, and we're good to go. Run the kayaks, run them down the river, and just go bang out fish. Could be a blast. He even bought little FRS radios for us to use, which is kind of funny. Yeah, I don't. So we might go look at kayaks when I go down at the end of the month, which is coming up very, very, very soon. Oh, they just knock everything over. It's cool. So yeah, because bringing my kayak down, pain in the arse. The other thing I was looking at is something I've been looking at for a while, guys, since I got into fishing and wanted a watercraft. Like, I always wanted a boat, but that's mainly for fishing with friends. I really don't see the point in launching my boat by myself, but it might just come down to it. If I were to buy an aluminum boat for myself, I think I would have just got like a 10-footer or a 12-footer with a 9.9 out back. I don't need anything super amazing. Like, this is a 25-horse, 16-foot boat. Like, it's just me on it. It's kind of stupid to have that, but whatever. We have it. It is what it is, and we'll deal. But like a little 10-footer, 11-footer, 12-footer, whatever, with a 9.9 out back would have been more than enough for me to do what I want to do. But yeah, what I've been looking at though is these boats called backwater boats. They're 8 feet long, about 4 feet wide. They're paddle boats, but you can put a 2.5 horsepower motor on them and use them as a motorboat. They're not very big. They hold 365 pounds, I think it was. Yeah, 160 kilos, 365 pounds. And they're awesome for fishing. They're light. They only weigh like 60 pounds to carry. You can paddle them. You can put a trolling motor on it. You can put an outboard, like a 2.5 horsepower outboard on it, and go ripping around on the lake. You got plenty of room inside of them because it's a boat. It literally looks like a giant Tupperware container. And I was thinking, you know, that would fit in the bed of my truck easily. Not in the bed of blokes, unfortunately, but unless we left the tailgate down. But it would fit in the bed of my truck to bring it down there or to bring it places to use. This is the other reason why I was like, the camping setup I have in there is great and all, but do I need it? Could I get away with my cot like I did the one year with Oreo in the backyard and just throw the cot in there, throw the battery in there, throw the cooler in there, and go camping, fishing, whatever we're gonna do. And that way there, I can break it all down. I have access to the bed of my truck when I want to use it as a truck. Like if I'm driving along and I see somebody threw a mower at the side of the road they're getting rid of, maybe I can fix it and sell it for 50 bucks. You know, so on and so forth. Like having the whole camping setup. I haven't even gone camping yet. This weekend coming up might be a busy weekend, might not, I don't know. I'm gonna play it by ear and do what I do. We're just gonna see what the hell goes on and just get it done. I might say screw it. If the drag races aren't happening and nobody wants to do anything, I might just go to the grocery store, buy some food, and head up the North Highway, find a spot on the lake, set up camp, and just do a camp out. Wake up early morning the next day, go fishing on the beach, hopefully not get eaten by a bear, and just have a good time. I don't know, we'll see what we do. But yeah, right now it's lunchtime. I got my chicken cooking. I've been pounding these stupid things all morning. Freaking love them. Nothing says awesome sauce like a freaking monster. They should sponsor me with the amount that I drink. Mind you, if they did, they would go out of business pretty damn quick. But whatever, it's not my problem. But yeah. So I got my float fishing set up. The new Daiwa rod, that's going to be a jigging rod. It's going to be set up with a spinner bait, or swim bait, but I also want to be able to set it up with a fluke. Now I can do fluke fishing with the bait caster. It's not as ideal, but it'll work because the bait caster is a medium heavy, and the spinning Daiwa is a medium. So the medium is going to have a little bit more play and a little bit more finesse when I'm trying to use it as a jerk bait. But I don't know, we'll see what we do and do what we see, right? That's usually how it goes. But anyway guys, I'm gonna get back to work here. Just figured I would show you how I set up my float rod. And tonight if we go fishing, well, guess that'll be a GoPro video. But I got some more shit to do after lunch, and I can't really be talking to this camera because today's gonna be another busy day. I don't know why, man. Summertime is usually so dead at the office, but this year it's not. This year things are picking up. And I got like 4 things I got to deal with right now. One of them's a phone setup, or a phone that will not set up. So they couldn't figure it out, so it came to me. And I got 2 computers that I got to provision remotely. So fun times. But anyway, guys, on that note, I'm going to shut it down here. If you ever want to try a slip bobber rig and you don't have a slip bobber stop, just use some braid line. It works fine. Go to your dollar store, Dollar General, Dollar Tree, Pound Town, whatever you have. Get yourself some freaking beads. Throw them on before or after the float so that it hits the bobber stop, and you shouldn't have any problems. But we'll see if we have problems tonight, right? We'll see if we have problems tonight. Anyway, guys, the next video, we'll try some float fishing, hopefully. We'll see how that works out, weather permitting. If not, it'll be a completely different video, so cool. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, click that like button. Any questions, comments, concerns, down below they go. I know this video wasn't as action-packed as I hoped, but during the week, things are rough. Welcome to the life of a working guy trying to make YouTube videos. Until next time, guys, live it to win it. Peace the frig out. Sit, stupid, sit. Good dog.